afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Aaron Hersterbommer, and I am from Remote CRM powered by XTIVIA, and I want to start off by thanking you for joining us today for our webinar. The topic of the hour, Epicor and Salesforce integration. So real quickly before we jump in, I do want to go ahead and introduce our presenters today. So like I said, my name was Mike Aaron Hersterbommer. I am the sales and account executive with the Remote CRM team. We also have Zach Bodine, who Zach has over 10 years experience on Salesforce, and he actually runs our CRM practice. And then we also have Anash Wadia. Anash is our lead CRM project manager, and Anash is also the longest tenured employee of the CRM practice. So you are going to be hearing from some very experienced and knowledgeable people this afternoon. We are a full service IT solutions provider, and we were founded almost 20 years ago now. And so while today we are really focused on CRM and Salesforce in particular, like I mentioned, XTIVIA is a full service IT solutions provider. So we do have offerings in cloud, digital experience, mobile, enterprise integration management, ERP, virtual database support, data management, you name it. We really can probably assist you when it comes to IT related inquiries. But again, the topic of today is Salesforce and CRM. We are a team of over 300 people. We have 6 offices around the country, headquartered in Colorado Springs. But really, we like to say that, you know, we do have a lot of remote employees. And honestly, we don't really care where you work, where you're based out of, as long as you are a good person and, you know, can do your job adequately. So before we jump in, I did just want to touch on a little bit about who we are. You can kind of see we are owned by another organization up top, but I'm not going to really jump into that today. If you want more information, we can always connect after the call. So let's go to the next one. All right, so why, if you are here today, this is why you're here, right? You want to understand, you want to learn about Epicor and Salesforce and tying those solutions together. So the question of the hour is why integrate Epicor with Salesforce? And to answer that question, this is where I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues and actually hand this one to Zach. So Zach, maybe you can tell the audience today, why integrate Epicor with Salesforce?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So this is a great question. We do get this from some of our clients that are just kicking the tires and researching, you know, why they should do this. And the best benefit that I can think of is that it really gives you a single 365-degree view of your customer by being able to take data that's in Epicor, such as your contacts and accounts, and bring that data into Salesforce and vice versa. It really gives all of your sales representatives and customer service reps a single source to be able to access all the information in one place. You know, we hear from a lot of clients that what makes their jobs really, really complicated and confusing and timely is that they have to go to different places to gather data. And when they do that, you know, they're really unsure which application is the source of truth if they don't match. And so by having this integration, you can ensure no matter where your data is stored, whether it's in Epicor or Salesforce, that everything is exactly the same and that they're in sync. And so it gives your employees confidence when they're looking at your data. So that's really the first one. Another great aspect of this is when you're bringing this Epicor data, whether it's accounts, contacts, orders, quotes, you're bringing that information into Salesforce. You now have the ability to leverage Salesforce's robust reporting and dashboard capability, which is really a strong asset of the Salesforce package. And it gives your management team better insights into your data, as well as your sales reps who might want to leverage that information as well. There is some potential savings that can occur, particularly if you have people that have a license to both the Epicor environment and the Salesforce environment. If you have a salesperson that you're giving access to the Epicor system today because they need to be able to look up information on customers or orders, because that data is not in Salesforce, then you're paying for 2 licenses today. You're paying for both the Epicor and the Salesforce. If you are now able to bring that Epicor data into Salesforce, then it all exists there. Then you might not need to be able to have to pay for a second license. You might have to scale back on those Epicor licenses. And vice versa, you might have customer support reps or store managers that have access to both Epicor and Salesforce. And now that they're integrated, they no longer need the Salesforce license. So there can be some licensing savings as part of the integration. In addition, Salesforce has a very large, robust automation engine inside Salesforce. So by being able to bring this Epicor data into Salesforce, you now can leverage things like automated email follow-ups to customers, a process for following up on unfulfilled orders, and you can also streamline internal business processes between your sales reps and perhaps back office accounting. So these are things that that we've experienced with our clients in the integrations that we have done, and know that they're proven successful outcomes of the integration. One other thing is, Salesforce is great for tracking big opportunities and big projects, and Epicor is great for single order entry and being able to quickly create quotes and orders for customers. And so this really allows you can still leverage the best of both applications and have people that are entering their stuff in Epicor, entering their stuff in Salesforce, and that integration allows data to be now in both locations accessible to your entire team. So that's really, I think, all I have for that one, Mike.
Cool. Well, it was very informative. Thank you very much, Zach. So, but, a lot of people may ask the question, why is a customized integration the way to go, right? If you look out on the, the Salesforce App Exchange, which if you're on this call, you probably understand, what the App Exchange is. And you type in Epicor, you may see a couple options out there for really kind of a pre-built package. So, Zach, maybe you can tell the audience, if I have this pre-built package out there, why wouldn't I just go with that? Tell me the reason to go with a custom solution.
Sure. So first, let me talk about some of the cons of the prepackaged solutions. Well, first, I wanted to say that almost all of the customers that we've received over the years that we've done Epicor and Salesforce integrations with, they first chose a prepackaged solution. And then once they realized that that wasn't a fit for them, they would reach out to us. We'd have to unwind the prepackaged solution and then build them a brand new customized solution. So that's really a big source of a lot of our customers are people that started off prepackaged and they hit a wall or a limitation of some kind, and then they needed to get out of it to have a customized solution. A lot of the reasons for that is those prepackaged solutions are packaged for several, hundreds of clients. So they're very restrictive in the amount of customization that can be made because they're offering a solution that's very rigid, that can be applied across several different businesses with very little customization or catering to your specific business. And so anytime you want to do something that's outside the confines of the package, you quickly realize that, okay, well, we can't do that. Well, this is no longer a fit for our business. We need to go the customized route. So really, if you're thinking about this from a cost perspective, if you go customized right off the get-go, you're saving yourself all that those costs and headaches if you do the prepackaged first, then have to get away from the prepackaged and then eventually land on a customized solution. So there's also, I mentioned, very little enhancement capability, which leads to this. And when you have a prepackaged solution, it pretty much comes with an annual recurring fee for the solution and the licensing for the solution. A customized solution is built directly on premise, on your environment, and there is no annual fees associated with it because you're paying the money upfront for the customized solution, and there's no licensing or anything, any service that you have to pay for on an ongoing basis. So no recurring fees is a pro of a customized and a con of a prepackaged. Additional pros of customized is that it really can be tailor-made for your business. So we can build the integration to your specific specs. A lot of times you might want certain fields to be mapped or certain business logic to be applied in addition to just simple field mapping. And so a customized integration that we build, we can build in all that logic for you so that you have a very efficient integration. Let's see. Another item is that if you do have a prepackaged solution and you happen to reach out to your provider and you want an enhancement, you need support and you need a fix to something for your business, you'll find that it can be a 2 to 3 year timeline before those enhancements are delivered directly to your business. Whereas if you have a customized solution, let's say we build it for you up front and then you start to use it. 3 months later, you decide you want to make an update to your integration process. You can very easily reach out to your partner and they can make that update for you right there. They don't have to wait till it's part of their greater package that they release out to all their customers. So when you go with a prepackaged solution, you're not just, the company isn't doing things based upon your timeline. It's doing things based upon their timeline to releasing this package out to all their customers. Versus a customized solution, it's your timeline. So when you want those updates, you get them. So that's really a big pro of the customized solution.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. That actually really explained it pretty clearly in my mind. So, but now I guess really the next question to that is, all right, you're talking a custom solution, right? So how does that actually work? And maybe this would be a good point for, and Ash, you're really kind of one of those guys that's in the trenches. Your team's doing these projects all the time. So maybe you can kind of outline in a little bit of detail, really, how does that custom integration work?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. And thanks, Zach, for the startup. So how is this implemented, right? We set up the integration as either a one-way or a bi-directional integration. Customers get to choose. They may have data go from one system to the other. Maybe certain fields are bi-directional, certain fields are not. You get to drive and choose all of that. The field mappings we made cleanly managed within Salesforce, so you aren't preset to a package solution where the fields are what they give you and you can't really change them. You can individually map and unmap certain fields, add custom fields, handle it all yourself, or have us assist you with it. The key thing is validation rules are being enforced, and actually on both systems. So on the Salesforce side, you can enforce Salesforce validation rules. So data will not come in from Epicor if it violates any of Salesforce's validation rules, and vice versa. Epicor may have specific business rules which you don't want data which is not required in Salesforce but required in Epicor coming over. So all of these issues are addressed by handling a custom managed solution like what we're giving you. And the frequency of data is also handled by you. So you can choose to sync this every 2 minutes. You can choose to run it once a day or anything in between. So you control the entire integration tailored to your business. The monetary value specifically, as Zach touched upon earlier, is it's customized. It's a one-time upfront implementation cost, and then as needed, you just get support from the appropriate partner if there are issues that come up. But however, the key thing being is these are your partners that know your Salesforce instance, they know your Epicor instance, so they can assist you with your specific data issue, versus a prepackaged solution can only help you with that very solution of integrating data, and they don't necessarily understand your business rules on either side of the fence. So as a result, you basically have a one-time upfront cost, but you don't have an annual, a recurring cost, which you would have to pay perpetually for a prepackaged solution. With that being said, I'd like to hop on and show you a quick demo of what this looks like from within the Salesforce environment. So I'm going to switch over to my Salesforce instance here. All right. So to start off with, I'm actually in one of my Salesforce orgs. And what I'm doing here is trying to show you how field mappings are done. So these are done via the custom settings. For those of you not familiar with how I got here, I'll just kind of walk you through the process. This is just built in within Salesforce. Every org has this. So I go to custom settings. And right here is where we've got Epicor record fields, which is where we manage the mapping. So you'll notice that what I have here, are a bunch of fields that are mapped between Salesforce and Epicor. So specifically, you'll see things like the account name, the account phone number, shipping addresses, et cetera, and these are how the mappings are handled. So basically, it lets you set up the account, the field name on the Salesforce side, the field name on the Epicor side, and any translations that need to happen can also be arranged. In particular, I like to point out right here, for example, in the bottom right, you notice that there's a set to a no sync for the Epicor. So the outbound Epicor will not send this data back to Salesforce. So you can, in this case, this is not a bidirectional field. This is a unidirectional integration field. Adding a new custom field to integrate is also very simple. You basically just add a new field and you get a form which lets you fill out all this information and determine whether you want this, what the field is in Salesforce, what the field is in Epicor, is it bidirectional, et cetera, et cetera. So it's pretty trivial to set up additional fields to map as well. It doesn't require any additional development or customization. Moving along, I've got another tab open here which shows you where the integration is managed and recorded by a Salesforce administrator. So we actually have an integration changes object built into Salesforce so you can actually see what's going on. So you aren't just reliant on an invisible item running up in a cloud environment somewhere. You can actually see what records are pending to be synced and what errors have, what records have some errors or issues associated with them. So for example, you can see here, I've got some records here that are in the pending process. If you click on it, you can actually view the detail. This is the specific record ID of that contact that's waiting to be inserted over to the Epicor side. Moving back, you can also see there are some records that potentially have errors. So you can sort by the error, and you can see some of the validation occurring here. So the customer contact already exists in this case. In this case, there's an Epicor internal server error with the API, so that can be resolved by working with the Epicor partner. You have a sales rep mismatch, et cetera, et cetera. So you notice that all of this is managed entirely within the Salesforce org. You can run reports on this. So let me actually bounce over and show you one of the reports you can run. So here's the Salesforce Epicor integration log report that we've got. And when I run the report, you'll notice that it gives me records by message type. Let me compress the details for now. And you'll notice of the integration, 520 rows were created. And this is probably within today's time frame. There's one where the customer type field was modified. There's 3 issues with the invalid sales rep and 3 internal errors. So, and I can always drill down to these details and figure out, okay, what are the 3 that have the internal errors, and then resolve the issue either by correcting the data on one of the 2 sides of the fence, and on the next iteration of the sync, it will correct the issue and proceed. Let me switch back to the slides here. So that's just a quick demo of what things look like.
I just want to point out, Anash, that you know, because all of this is in Salesforce, that integration logs object, that's something that we built as part of the integration for our clients, as well as any reporting that they want around that. And being able to easily run that report and access the information, you know, it's not hidden anywhere deep in the system. You know, you don't even need to be a developer to go in and find those errors and bring them to the attention of who's ever responsible for it. So you can quickly resolve any data issues as they do occur. And it's great that we're capturing those errors, because if they're not being captured, then you're having issues with their data that aren't being solved, and it just continue to exist over time. So it's really a nice feature of Salesforce to be able to provide that.
You're absolutely right, and thank you for pointing that out, because very often customers contact us and say, why is this data not coming across? Well, now they have the ability to have direct insight into why a particular record didn't come across, or why something didn't occur. So very valid point. Nice. So a little bit of how it works. Typically most customers want to make sure that their accounts, contacts, and addresses, so that's the core data for both their systems, does sync across. So that's kind of like the standard sequence. The bidirectional integration absolutely lets you create an account in Salesforce, or create an Epicor and have the data sync out to the opposite system. There are obviously some issues with things like you need an Epicor ID as a required field. You may need a particular record in Salesforce to have a certain value. And all of these issues are addressed with our integration, where we handle these special exceptions. So IDs do flow across, required fields do come across. Some of them actually involve a second sync cycle before they come across, but it's all been addressed. Additionally, you can also handle special cases, like for example, with addresses, Epicor has 3 different address lines, Salesforce just has 1. All of these issues are also addressed out of the box by our integration. And then the optional sync objects, which you can enable and disable at your discretion, are things like products, quotes, quote line items, orders, etc. And as it mentions, you can also do any custom tables, custom fields on either system. Again, as I demonstrated, the field mapping can be modified by you. It's a pretty straightforward inline thing you can add yourself.
So Anash, I got a question for you. You walked us through in Salesforce where you manage the field mappings in the custom settings, as well as the error log. But where do you track, if you want to apply any logic in terms of how the data goes from one application to the other, where's that logic managed?
So that logic was managed in the field mappings, where it mentions what the U-bound and inbound values are. So that's where the logic is tracked, and it can be handled there. There are additional places which can also be inserted. It gets a little beyond the topic of this webinar, but it can be handled internally again without requiring code customizations.
Yeah, it was very, very informative. So, but yeah, like you said, so we do have some frequently asked questions. You know, we have been doing this integration now for a few years. So being on the sales side of things, I can promise you that these questions have come up in every one of those discussions. But so let's just go right down the list, right? So first off, I mean, could one of you tell us, you know, what does a typical length, you know, of an implementation look like? Are we talking weeks? Are we talking months? Are we talking a year? I mean, what does that typically, that implementation time frame look like?
Sure, and I'll take that one. A typical implementation can be anything from 2 months to 4 months. It really depends on how many custom objects and how detailed and customized you want the system to be, bidirectional, unidirectional, etc. And then also the business rules on either system, right? If the business rules tend to be more complex, then the testing and implementation process takes a little longer. But the average tends to be between 2 months to 4 months. So you plug the solution in, and you could be up and running with just accounts and contacts very easily within a 60-day time frame.
Okay, that's awesome. And so, I mean, everybody wants to know, right? I mean, what's it cost? What's it going to run us, right? I mean, you talked about one of the big benefits of this is that it's a one-time cost versus that ongoing fee every month or every year. So what's this going to run me?
Yeah, good question. So the cost is really dependent on what the customer wants to accomplish. So it first starts with, do you want your implementation or your integration rather to be a single direction, say Epicor to Salesforce, or do you want it to be bidirectional where data can go both ways? So that's the first question we have to ask. Another question is, are you wanting to do a very standard integration where you're integrating accounts and contacts, or are you wanting to bring in additional items like sales orders, quotes, you know, quote line items, those types of things, and really bring in all your data from Epicor and Salesforce sync both ways. And then, you know, the number of fields that you have on these objects. So Salesforce and Epicor both give you standard fields, but you can also add additional custom fields. And so that determines the price. And then lastly, any additional rules or logic that you want to put in place that determines, you know, how a field gets brought over, if it's not just taking the straight value from one system to the other, and you want certain you know, rules applied, then the complexity of those rules can also drive that. But you know, we've seen some very, very simple ones where people just want to do accounts and contacts, and we've seen ones where people want to you know, take data that's in Epicor and then turn it into an inventory management solution inside Salesforce, even though that data table in Epicor wasn't even really designed to do that. But with the rules that we're able to build, we can apply that. So it's a great question, Mike. Unfortunately, we can't provide a straight price because these things are really determined and driven by everything that the customer wants to accomplish.
Yeah, it's understandable. It makes sense, right? All right. So next question. You'll notice, I mean, the first three of these are really kind of tied to upfront, tied to the project, right? So what's the required expectations? What's the required resources, right? Does the customer have to dedicate a lot of their time and their resources to this project? Are they heavily involved every week? Or is it someone that's, you know, are they fully, this is your role, you're running with it? Where does the Epicor partner come into play? Maybe just outline a little bit more about what are those resources and expectations, you know, from every corner of the project.
Sure. And Mike, since I've worked with several of these implementations, I figured I'll answer this question. So for required resources from both sides would be on the Salesforce side, you obviously want your Salesforce partner, probably us, and also want an Epicor partner assisting you with handling the integration, having it implemented correctly on both sides. The reason being is, again, the validation rules have to be implemented on both sides of the fence. There are custom fields that may be created on the Epicor side, custom UD tables, and conversely, there may be custom fields to be added by a managed package on the Salesforce side. So there are resource expectations on your partner side on both sides of the fence. From your internal company resource standpoint, you probably don't need a ton of resources throughout the project, but you do want, in the initial phases, a mapping meeting where it's determined these are the fields that will go from Salesforce to Epicor, these are the fields that go from Epicor to Salesforce, bidirectional, etc., cadence, etc. is determined. But once that mapping is determined and decided upon, we can work with the Epicor partner and get your integration going based on the requirements of the mapping document.
Cool. So it doesn't sound like there's too much heavy involvement from the customer's perspective. Early on, there's a bit, but then it's, you know, both partners are taking it and running with it. Awesome. Okay.
Right.
So, you know, why is XTIVIA the right partner? What makes you guys the experts, you know, in this integration?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that one. So, you know, what I would say is if you're going to work with somebody who's going to have your hands in multiple of your applications and affecting your data, then you probably want someone who's experienced in doing that. And so I think that's where XTIVIA comes in as a really good fit because we have done a fair number of these Epicor and Salesforce integrations. And whether those are ones where they just purchased Salesforce, they already had an Epicor system, and they were building a customization from scratch, or whether it's a company that's been in existence for a long time, already had a pre-packaged integration solution and wanted to transition away from that pre-packaged solution to a customized solution. We've really handled any type of a different integration that has taken place between the two applications. And for that reason, for the experience, I'd say that's probably what makes us the best bet and best fit. You know, typically, you know, that's what you want is you want someone that you're going to trust with your data. And I think that's where it comes down to.
Awesome. So getting a little bit more back into the technical side of things, is an this integration, is it upgrade safe, right? You know, everybody talks about Salesforce's upgrades and everything typically just works, but how, is that really the fact here? What about if an Epicor, you know, upgrade happens? Maybe one of you can go into a little bit about that, because I know that has come up as a concern in the past during these potential projects.
Sure, and customers buy Salesforce because it's upgrade safe. Why shouldn't your integration be upgrade safe too? And that's why we designed this. So we're using standard objects in Salesforce, we're using standard objects everywhere. It's not, well, even though they're custom, it's standard features and functionality of Salesforce, which is upgrade safe. So as a result, the integration becomes upgrade safe. On the Epicor side of things, you're using standard user-defined tables that are created. So between upgrades, you shouldn't have any issues with different versions of Epicor either. So in a nutshell, yes, it's absolutely upgrade safe.
Cool. That's what we want to hear. So what does ongoing future support look like though? Tell us a bit about that. Are you guys involved? Do we need ongoing support? I mean, tell us a little bit about, you know, when this integration's done, what happens, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what I would say is this is what most of our relationships look like is we'll have a customer, they'll sign up for the integration, and then upon the integration being completed, they'll purchase an admin on-demand contract with us, which basically gives them the ability for us to step in on demand and make any enhancement to their integration that they would like. And then the nice thing about that admin on demand contract is that it also opens up our services to anything Salesforce application related. So even if they want enhancements or updates done to things non-integration related, they can use our services for that as well, not just fixing the integration. However, there are other options, and we're certainly open to any and all types of client suggestions. But really, the admin on demand is really the best fit to offer that ongoing support. And so, depending on the complexity of your integration, that's typically where we recommend what that support looks like. But yeah, that's really where I see it, Mike.
So I guess real quickly, that just kind of triggered something in my head. I would like to kind of push back on you guys a little bit there. So you mentioned, you call it your admin on demand contract, right? What if a client already hasn't Salesforce admin? Like, is that still needed? I mean, do you work hand in hand with their admin? How does that kind of work? Maybe I'm off base, but you called it the admin on demand.
No, you're right. So that's just the title of our offering. It includes all development. So we have a whole team of Salesforce developers at our disposal. As you saw on the previous slide, we had a lot of certifications that we showed. And so we have a full team available on call. And so what that really equates to is lots of times it's great. We like it when the customer already has an admin, but even the admin, a single admin, especially at a company, has limitations on what their capabilities are in writing Apex classes or triggers, even assistance with process builders or flows or any sort of customizations that they want, as well as just general consulting advice about what's the best way to solve this issue or request in Salesforce. And so we work with a lot of system admins regardless of what customer that we're on. In fact, I'd say most of our customers already do have a system admin on staff. And if anything, that just helps create a more successful relationship.
And so with that, I think we are really at the top of the half an hour. So if you are still with us, we first off really want to thank you very much for your time today. Hope what you found or what you watched today was extremely informative. If this is something that you have a need for, or maybe you're just curious and you have questions, right? Please don't hesitate to reach out. You saw on an earlier slide, all of our contact information is there. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are here. We are more than happy to help assist you on, as we like to call it, your Salesforce journey. And if that requires an integration with Epicor, give us a call. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.